And I said, Kathy, your liver's failing. You're having brain seizures. And I said, it's time for you to go home to mom and dad. And she sobbed, these two big, huge sobs like you do when it's kind of a shock cry. But I could tell she really reacted to this.
Thank you. Your Honor, just for your information, Mr. Parker is roughly a witness, so he's not going to be arrested. I understand.
Mr. Rasmussen, did we fix that exhibit issue?
I apologize, I had it, give me, I found it, I'll give it to you right now, thank you for reminding me, Tori.
Thank you.
Okay.
So here. Okay, let's bring him in.
All rise for the jury. Please be seated.
All right, do the parties stipulate to the presence of the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. What's going on? No idea. Anyway, it's my understanding we're going to continue with the video testimony. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, take a look at exhibit 57. There's a meter down at the bottom.
Oh, yeah. Bring back some memories there.
Okay, and with regards to this, this promotional literature, did you ever see this?
Is this a real water promotion they had, or no?
No, this is promotional literature from Milwaukee. I'm not suggesting you should have seen it. I'm just asking if you did see it.
I don't remember seeing this, no.
Okay. All right. Now, and on the next page, there's also a picture of the Orion meter, if you want to look at that.
Yeah, I do recognize this thing. I do remember using this little room next to the lunchroom, I think.
Okay. And was the first time you ever used an Orion meter when you were at Real Water?
Oh, yes, for sure.
Okay. And does this generally look like the Orion meter you used?
It generally does. No, it's like the same one, pretty much. I have to say yes. Never used one, and this seems one work sometimes, and I didn't work a lane in there.
Okay.
Right.
Sometimes they worked and sometimes they didn't work.
Yeah, but the batteries were dead, or they had too much water on them, they had corrosion on them, and instead of buying more of them, that's why I think I was buying more and more and more. Yeah, at one point, I think we were selling them to, not selling them, maybe giving them out to customers, I believe.
Okay.
I think they were pretty expensive, like $100 a piece, and I went for it.
Okay. Directing your attention to exhibit 58. Did you ever see the user manual for this MW500 Orion meter?
No, I did not. This went over Blaine, kind of showed me out there how to do them. No.
So Blaine was the one that gave you some instruction on how to use the Orion meter?
Right, he did. I think Obed popped in once in a while. He did it, I did it, and back and forth, back and forth. And for a while there, it wasn't all the time. You know, Obed was doing all the time, but it was given one of my appointments by Blaine and said, you're going to do this every hour, 2 hours, something like that.
But you didn't see the user manual for the Orion meter, correct?
I don't want to say 100% no, but I'd say most likely no. It was all hands-on. Blaine showed me how to use it.
Okay, and since you didn't see the user manual, could you take a look at exhibit 60 and tell me if you saw this little card that may or may not have been in the box of the Orion meter?
No? Really very helpful to get some training on that, but it's still making the water issue really.
Yeah, let's flip back to exhibit 59. Okay, this is YouTube video that Mr. Jones prepared, which says that you can calibrate the York meter by soaking for 5 minutes in vinegar. You see
Right,
that?
I remember him doing that with me. Vinegar was part of the process. I remember that for sure.
And you soaked it for 5 minutes when you originally started using the York meter.
Right, 5 minutes is kind of, right.
Right. So that's what Mr. Jones taught you to do, soak it for 5 minutes.
Right, there was some talk with vinegar, that's for sure. There was cannons of vinegar in there we got.
Okay. And before you got the instruction, well, strike that. Did there come a time that you decided to send an email to the manufacturer asking them for some instructions about the York meter?
I probably did. I was really hazy on the training and I felt it was a critical process to me. I'm not going to be laughing about it. I probably should have sent an email. I would have sent an email. I think I wasn't in a lot of communication with Milwaukee. I'm trying to get a special price. If we bought a certain amount, we get it. Of course, Andy was saying, hey, do what you can. There's some savings on that. I think I succeeded on some of that.
Okay. And you thought the York meter was, you said, critical to the manufacturing process? Is that the term you used?
To maintain the pH level they were looking for. I think it was a certain pH, a higher pH than regular city water.
Okay, and if you measured, you used the York meter, you took a measurement, and it was too high, you'd add concentrate, and too low, you'd add water. Is that the way it worked?
Yeah, it was, it would always just add more concentrate. I don't think we'd add more water to it. As far as concentrate goes in the back, this had to do with the little sodium bicarbonates that they were putting on top, right? At a lower level, I forget how it was, lower or higher level.
Okay.
Not Blaine's special sauce thing in the back. This had to do with, I remember this one, now I remember this one here. If it was too low or too high, I forget which range it was, would add a little more, a little less, the bicarbonate up on the top.
Okay. Some people have testified that depending on the ORP meter reading, too low or too high, you should add more concentrate. You familiar with that?
Meaning the sodium bicarbonate or Blaine's?
Blaine's concentrate.
I was not, that never happened with me on that.
Okay.
That was never even a conversation. And with me,
Okay. Now back to the email. Would you take a look at Exhibit 62, please? Specifically, the second page over, which on the bottom says 3649.
yeah.
You see that?
Yeah, the whole thing was trying to save some money. We had not a lot, I'd say several older of these pros, and we're trying to get some use out of them. And I didn't know, this was right. This sounds about right. I was having trouble calibrating them. I didn't know how to calibrate them. And Milwaukee does these things all the time. So.
Okay, so is this a true and correct copy of the email you sent to Milwaukee on or about February 22nd, 2019?
I don't dispute anything I said by email.
This is a copy.
Well, that's what I remember. I was talking about the shipping area. It will be $77 each, right? Yeah.
Yeah. All I'm asking is this a true and correct copy of the email you sent them?
Oh, I'm sure, yes. The best of my knowledge, yes. I don't see any tamper. I didn't see tamper.
And the reason you sent them the email is you didn't know how to calibrate the ORP meter, correct?
Yeah, I did not, no.
Okay. And that was with regards to the old meters and the new meters, right?
Right, it just wasn't very clear. I don't think it was working properly. The calibration wasn't working right. I was telling Blaine about it. You just said, use the vinegar, let it soak longer or something else with this thing, rinse them off well. Rinse them off, rinse them off with untainted water, just bottled water. Maybe you had a bottle of Desante or something like that. No, Desante or something like that. Use that to rinse them off with.
Would it be correct that prior to sending this email, there were a number of occasions where you felt that the ORP meter was not measuring properly?
Yes, for the pH, yes, for sure. I was telling Brian about that.
And in the In the email, you say, quote, do the new meters need to be calibrated, unquote. Do you see that?
Let's see, tomorrow shift today. You know what page on the,
Right there, where, you see it on your screen?
oh yeah.
Second sentence, quote, do the new meters need to be calibrated, question mark, unquote.
Yeah, I don't see it in your screenshot. It says a little email from me, but what number on the bottom of that page?
It's on the top of page 3649, which is in Exhibit 62.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. I do.
Okay, so you remember asking, quote, do the new meters need to be calibrated, question mark, unquote, correct?
Yeah, I do remember that.
And you asked that question because at that time, February 22nd, 2019, you didn't know one way or the other whether the new meters needed to be calibrated, correct?
Right, correct. It's just kind of not a clear direction on how these things get calibrated. Let's get it hazy for me. I want a good concrete way to do it.
And you've already said the reason you wanted instructions on how to calibrate them is you were getting inconsistent readings from the old meter, right?
Inconsistent readings and just, yeah. And also, we were also at that time, I believe, we were sending them out to customers, right? Send them out. And I remember Blaine or Amy had us calibrate, said, always calibrate it before you ship them out. How do you calibrate it? And we were calibrating the old ones. And I was wondering, hey, these new ones are very set, good to go. Can we just take them in the box and put them in UPS and get them right out? Or trying to save some time on that part.
Okay. And do you remember the Milwaukee person sending you something, responding to this email?
Well, I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did.
Okay, could you flip open to page 60, or Exhibit 63, please?
I got it. 10 or P unit. There you go.
Okay, and he says, quote, here's a link from our website. Hope this information is helpful. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. Has anyone indicated to you that Milwaukee made a mistake in the instructions they gave you as to how to calibrate the Nord meter?
Absolutely not. I would have red flagged that one. No.
Okay, so directing your attention to Exhibit 65, please, which is the testimony from Jason Brown, the man who sent you that email. And I direct your specific attention to page 142, lines 13 through 20.
42.
65.
I'm on the right page here.
It's page 142 on the top,
Right?
right? And lines 13 through 20 on the left.
Is this an email or is this, what is it?
This is his deposition testimony.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So, I mean, why don't we start on 4? So he says he sent you the link that I've already shown you, right? Do you see that?
That's it.
And then he says what he should have done is he should have told you to put it in vinegar for 4 or 5 days. That's what he says he should have done. You see that?
4 or 5 days, not 4 or 5 minutes. Okay?
Oh, I don't want to mischaracterize anything, so let me read you the testimony, sir. On page 142, lines 9 through 12, question, and what you should have done, if you had known he didn't have a cleaning kit, is tell him to put it in vinegar for 4 to 5 days, right? Answer, yes, unquote. Did I read that correctly? Did I read that correctly, Mr. Bush?
Oh, yeah. I'm reading. I'm reading along with you right here.
And you thought from your training with Mr. Jones that you were supposed to put in vinegar for 4 to 5 minutes, not 4 to 5 days, correct?
Right, that's correct.
And following on, we go, question, and that was your mistake, referring to the Milwaukee person's mistake. And he says, answer, that was my mistake, yes, sir, unquote. Did I read that right?
You read it right? Oh, there we go.
Okay, prior to today, did you know that Milwaukee made a mistake in responding to your email as to how to calibrate the meter? Was the answer no, sir?
No, I did not know there was a mistake. That's a pretty big thing I would have recognized.
Okay. And following up, question. So you would agree with me that when Real Water asked for information on how to calibrate, that you did not give them the correct information? Answer. I did not give them the correct information because I thought they were the one that had the kit. That is right. Did I read that correctly?
You read it correctly.
So this is the first you've known today that Milwaukee did not give you the correct information on how to calibrate the meter. Is that right?
That's
It's,
And so I'm correct. This is the first you've known that they did not give you the correct information to calibrate.
That's correct. There was a big deal getting those kits out to customers, the big thing. 5 days to fill the whole thing up would have slowed down the process quite a bit. If it had to be done, it would have been done for sure.
Right? If they had told you to put in vinegar 4 to 5 days, you would have done that, correct?
Right, yes, I would have.
But you didn't do that because your understanding was 4 to 5 minutes, right?
Right, that's right.
All right. Now, what is your understanding as to what the reporting procedure was at Real Water if a customer indicated they were potentially sick from drinking Real Water?
Boy, that was not even me. That would have been Amy Jones or Blaine Jones or what's the main owner's name? That is name. Brent Jones, yeah, Brent. Those three would have worked it out, figured out how that worked. They would have passed on to me what the situation was and what to correct it or what their thoughts were. No.
Why don't we look at Exhibit 14, please? That's the policy and procedure to report customer complaints. First question, have you ever seen that before?
Oh, you say page 14?
Exhibit 14.
I'm reading over, just give me a second here. No, I didn't, wasn't involved in this thing. This is, yeah, back in 2014.
Okay, so you didn't get any training on what to do with customer complaints?
No, sir.
There's been some testimony that there was some sort of procedure to let it sit for a couple of days before anyone drank it off the assembly line. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what was the procedure?
Well, you got me on the specific dates on that. But I did hear on the procedure, I don't know what you want from me, but I remember it was, I don't know how long, I don't think you get a number on that.
Okay, but the procedure was to allow it to sit for some time period, correct?
Sometimes we're behind and we just pack the trucks and ship it out. And I don't know, we get to consumer probably after it sits there a couple of days. I don't remember the number of days it was.
Okay, and why did they want it to sit before they shipped it out?
I don't know the reason why. I know what my explanation to me was sort of make the people have, say diarrhea or whatever, without, if you have too much chlorine and something like that, you do the same type of.
So if you drank it right off the assembly line, it could potentially give people diarrhea.
Right, there you go, now you got my memory going right, so we didn't pick it up and like, that's the reason why.
Okay, and could it also potentially make people vomit?
It would give the same as if you drank like chlorine water from a pool, so that's why I was told. So I think it could make you vomit, I'm sure.
And who told you that?
Had it be Blaine or had it be Blaine? That's the only guy I got over there.
Okay, and did you ever make inquiries to what was in the water that was making people sick and vomiting?
No, there wasn't like I said, this isn't a customer complaint thing that I'm dealing with. It's just general knowledge we have, as far as what would happen. I didn't hear there were customers getting sick with this stuff. But
When you drank the Nestle water when it came off the line, would that make you sick and vomit?
no. Super clean place. No, the water was,
Are you aware of any other bottled water that if you drink it off the line makes you sick and vomit?
I'm sure the Santi, they put ozone, I think, in that thing. When they bottle it, you can't drink it right away.
Okay, directing your attention to Exhibit 46. This is an email chain between Cheney Castile and a customer named Watkins, Wadkins. And you are not on the email chain, okay? No, I think you got the wrong exhibit. I think 40, did I say 46? I meant 40. Yeah, 46.
The 46 doesn't look like an email, right? Just a letter. There's an email in there somewhere, right? Exhibit 46, you said?
Yeah, try 45. I'm sorry.
All right.
My lovely assistant has helped me out a little bit.
Yeah, I just got 45 email in there.
Okay. And I'm not suggesting you should have gotten this email. I'm just asking if you knew anything about, on the second page, it says, quote, "My husband has been in the hospital for 2 weeks, and the doctor wants him to stop drinking alkaline water," unquote. Did I read that right?
That's right.
Okay. Did you become aware at any time that a real water customer was in a hospital?
No, I didn't know about that. I mean, that sounds like a big thing. Say, for example, we're in Nestle and something happens like this, all management would shut the plant down just about 15 minutes or so and do a safety review.
Right.
After action report, the military saying that. But no, I don't remember that.
If Nestle got a report that one of their customers drank their water and was in the hospital for 2 weeks, they would shut the assembly line down, correct?
Right.
Did you become aware of any reports of anybody, customers, employees, anybody becoming ill from drinking real water at any time?
Well, I think Obed, and if anybody, I remember about drinking the water off the line, because I mentioned it early on, hey, what's going on? We're going to have a ball. I'm dying of thirst. It's hot as heck in this place. And Obed would say, "Oh, man, you're sick." So maybe, I don't know. I'm just hypothetical, like someone said up there. I don't remember a specific situation where someone got sick.
So you remember Obed, and I think his name was, it's on Exhibit 20 again. So you think Obed,
Like I said, I don't know if he got sick, but he told me this, no. I'm drinking this about the line.
did Obed Penaloza warn you not to drink the water off the assembly line because people were getting sick?
Oh, no, not people, not because people are getting sick, that you could get sick, because it is, it's got to settle or something has to happen to it, oxidized through plastic, I don't know exactly what it was, but.
So Obed Penaloza told you not to drink the water off the assembly line because you could get sick. Is that correct?
Right, just like I said, from chlorine, like a chlorine type thing, had to settle or something else. I imagine something like the Desanti stuff. I assumed it, something like that.
Okay, you assumed it was chlorine. He didn't say anything about chlorine?
No, the chlorine was never mentioned. I'm just saying about my head. He said it's like if you're in a swimming pool and drink too much water in a swimming pool, you get the same kind of reaction.
Okay.
That was his this conversation with me.
Did anybody else caution you not to drink it off the assembly line?
I think Blaine too at one time. I asked him about it too.
And Blaine
I
also,
mean, it got extremely hot in there, so of course we're dying for water. And you have bottles of water out around you. It's really simple. No, it's another warehouse.
okay, so Blaine Jones also told you not to drink it out of the assembly line because you might get sick?
Because of the time element, that's why.
Okay. But Blaine Jones gave you that warning too?
Oh yeah, for sure. It wasn't like a sit down conversation, but it's like, yeah, man.
And did you yourself also see other people, or also warn other people not to drink it? Off the assembly line?
We got new employees, I'm sure I told them not to drink it off the line.
Do you know if you told one, more than one, what?
I think any new employees that came in, I do an orientation with them, walk through the plant, and tell them about a 3 case of water we got, I think once a week, or something like that for everybody, and that I would mention to anybody out there. And if I didn't, if that wasn't a specific thing for me, Obed or the lead person next to Obed would tell them the same way.
Okay.
I mean, people are literally dripping sweat and everything's really hot, so they want water, so that's something you need to flag everybody on that.
Okay. Okay. Do you know what hydrazine is?
Hydrazine?
Hydrazine.
No.
Okay. And if you take a look at Exhibit 25, that is a test report that the FDA did on the concentrate used to make real water, where they found in 3 different samples that they had hydrazine levels of 1.44, 1.75, and 1.32. Okay, you with me?
I got it.
Okay. And if you take a look at the next page, that's a fact sheet about hydrazine. That's Exhibit 26, which generally says that hydrazine is a rocket fuel that causes liver and kidney damage. You see that? Would you agree with me that hydrazine should not have been in real water?
I hope it wasn't, but no, I can agree with that, based on that statement, that that should not be anywhere around that plant.
Okay, can you give me any explanation as to how hydrazine could have found its way into real water?
If it was put in real water, all the area I saw was not put in at all. Nobody was pouring anything in there unless it was after ship overnight. I don't see that happening. I can imagine in that little locker, in the little not secret, I'm sorry, that's going too far, but in the little room that we did the water concentrate, whatever it was done in that locker, whatever was in that locker must have, if it was added, I would assume it'd be added in that room, if it was added at all.
You spoke to Mr. Kemp about your experience at Real Water, and I just want to make sure I have the dates right. So I have that you were the production manager of Real Water from November 2018 to around April 2019. Is that accurate?
That's right.
And then from April to sometime in May 2019, you were the HOD sales manager for the 5-gallon jugs at Real Water?
Absolutely not. I was not a sales manager, I was a sales team member.
I think you might have mentioned this to Mr. Kemp, but why did you ultimately leave Real Water?
Well, Amy let me go for sure, because she wanted to go with that. And then I went to HOD side, and they promised, the commission structure was not transparent to me. No, I would turn in like, say 20 sales, and I get paid for maybe 2 of them. And that happened like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It just seemed really, I went too far with that, but it didn't seem great. So I started driving a Lyft, and then within maybe a month or so after that, the controller went to become a controller for Supremeville in Gilbert, Arizona. They needed a production manager, so I went there with him. Did that.
Mr. Bush, was it ultimately your decision to leave Real Water, or were you let go by Real Water?
Oh, no. As far as production manager, that was Amy Jones. As far as the HOD, that was me, 100%.
In terms of your own role as production manager, were you primarily involved with the retail bottle production?
Right, that was 95% of my area.
Who were the primary people on the line for the retail bottle production while you were there?
Those people, Obed, I think Javier, you certainly this list somewhere in there. They were running the line, keeping the line.
And then in terms of the retail bottle production at the Desert Inn facility, were Obed, Jose, and Diego 3 of the main individuals who worked on the retail bottle production line?
I'd say yes. There was other people that worked there, laborers. They were all laborers, but they were the main ones.
While you were there at Real Water, was there an HACCP team for the retail bottle production at the Desert Inn facility?
No, I mean, this was put together by Tom, just to have it put together. I don't remember ever having any meetings together on this situation. It was just put together so we may have an HACCPT money. I believe, I'm fairly sure I would have to Costco audit the person that went sour. I think this is something that was identified as not being in our records, and they had to put this together.
On number 6 here, it says plant sanitation issue. Do you remember what that was?
Oh, boy. Oh, I think I do remember that. Like I said, they were putting together a 5-gallon line in another room outside of the room they were originally making the 5 gallons at. It was right next to the bathroom facility for the whole plant. When you say bathroom facility, it's a toilet and closed door, they closed very well. And I was saying the odor from this thing was pretty bad. So that was something we had to work on. I do remember something to do with increase the sanitation of that, but one of the crews, the volunteer, that didn't work out, so I got somebody just specifically to go in there and be sure that's clean every day. But I didn't like it being there, but.
So just so I understand, while you worked at the Desert Inn Real Water Facility, what was your role with audits, if any?
I would just, like a dog and pony show type thing, I'd walk around with Lane and Amy, I guess, and the auditor. And then any questions related to me, I'd answer their questions if they asked me questions. And I knew I'd answer mostly Blaine or Amy would answer those things.
And you recall that you were shown, I think it was Exhibit 18, which was the December 6, 2018 audit. You call that?
I do recall that.
Before today, had you ever seen the audit itself? Had you ever seen that before?
Yeah, probably when Tom Fan came on board, I think we went over some of the, I think. No, but Amy was pretty adamant about getting this audit redone. She said she's got some people called or something. Anyway, I can't remember specifically everything that we went on that day.
Okay. So is it accurate then that you don't specifically recall reviewing this audit before today?
Specifically, no. I might have reviewed it, but if it pertains to me, water transportation, no. Source water, pest control. That would have been time, I guess. I'm just looking through this real quick. Okay, I do remember this one. It's a big deal here. It's was it page 6 of 17? Not a big deal for you, I'm sure. Number 4, about people wearing earrings and those types of things. There are some guys that wear earrings or tongue rings. I don't know if they're wearing. But there's a big push to get these people to remove that stuff. Had some trouble with some employees that want to wear them in, forget about them.
Have you ever heard of something called a re-audit?
Yeah, that's why I told you that Amy was really pushing for that, because she said we could lose this big account, and she was making phone calls to everybody about it. She's very upset. I mean, she got another audit. I think she knew somebody who was an auditor or something. I don't know. Anyway, we've got to be audited done.
Okay, so, and do you know if Real Water received a higher score on the re-audit that was completed? And
I do remember they did get a better score on that.
it's your understanding that Costco was one of the customers that Real Water had, is that right?
Yeah, it was a major customer with them.
Okay, and what makes you say that it was a major customer?
We'd fill up a truck, how many pallets in there, 17, 18 pallets in the truck, and they'd be Costco. We had a driver just dedicated only to Costco and delivered to Costco, all Henderson, Summerlin. There's a new Costco out there where the Oakland Raiders are practicing out there, and 2 or 3 other Costco's, I think, but they had all of Vegas.
At night, when the meter, you call it the pH meter, but the MW500 you were shown a picture of, when it wasn't in use, how was it stored? Do you recall?
Oh boy, I remember the probe itself aside like a vial, I don't know if it's vinegar or water, just put it in a vial, keep it clean. It wasn't just sit there to dry, it couldn't dry out 100%, it wasn't planned. They were rinsed off. If they wouldn't put it in a vial, they were wrapped up in a paper towel with water on it. That's how it was stored.
Okay, and who told you how to store it that way, or who taught you how to store it that way?
Blaine.
Okay, so, okay, and do you recall specifically whether it was vinegar or water that was stored in the I'll call it the pen cap, because that's what it looks like to me, but do you know what I'm talking about when I say the pen cap?
Yeah.
Do you have an understanding whether or not that was vinegar or water, or do you not recall?
You can't say for sure. I know we use vinegar at this 5-minute process to calibrate it. For keeping it wet, I think it was distilled water. We put distilled water in there for overnight type thing.
Okay, my question is, do you have a specific recollection of what that solution was that was stored in?
I cannot give you an exact.
When you decided, there were times, I take it, where you decided to open a new meter for Milwaukee and use a new one, correct? Sounds like it.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And what was the factor that you used in deciding whether or not to open a new meter and use a new one?
See if I changed the batteries a few times, I couldn't get it to calibrate, or if the digital readout was coming through kind of crackly because so much water on it, that type of thing. I believe that it's a situation now.
Okay, just so I'm clear, so when you had to change batteries was one time,
Well,
correct?
no, change about a simple thing. Change the batteries at work, that's great. Change the batteries and it's still getting me a strange display on the LCD. It's a bad one.
Okay, so can you describe for me what you mean by strange reading on the LCD? Or what would be strange?
Old Casio watch with a digital display on there, and the number might be, say, 47, but half of the 4 is like crackly. It's like you can't see it, breaking down.
Okay, all right, and that's when you would know to replace the meter.
Right, for sure.
And did you replace it with a brand new meter altogether, or just replace the probe?
Oh, well, you're really stranging my memory there.
And if you don't know, I don't want you to guess.
No, I'm not guessing.
All right.
I do remember we changed just probes a few times. I remember that.
So you didn't always have to change the meter, correct?
Oh, no. It's an overall good solid device at work. But anyway.
Lastly, you told Mr. Robbins that you had a general recollection that the probes, the tips of the probes were stored in distilled water overnight. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I did it myself, yes.
And so your general recollection is that the probes overnight were put in distilled water, correct?
My general recollection, right? Not 100% general recollection.
But that's your best recollection as we sit here today?
Yes.
Then he asked you about some other bottles that you said were, quote, outdated and discolored, unquote. Do you recall that testimony?
I remember he mentioned something about some kind of testing solution or some other solution they sent in the kit. I remember there were some that were, a lot of people had their hands in that thing in there.
Okay. And I assume you would not use a solution that you thought was outdated and discolored, would you?
No.
So you didn't use this solution?
No, I probably, there was one that we had to use. As long as it was calibrated correctly, calibrated with vinegar, that type of thing, it worked out well. There's no reason to use that.
That's all.
Before you call your next witness, we'd like to move plaintiffs 268 to 22119 NSF re-audit discussed during Mr. Bush's deposition and evidence.
No objection, Your Honor. Mine shall be admitted.
No objection, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, Mr. Robbins. No objection.
You said 261?
286, I'm sorry.
286?
286, yeah. Plaintiffs 286. Sorry, I forgot you one.
Shall be admitted. All right, sir, next witness. We call Judy Ryerson.
Stand and raise your hand, please, and raise your right hand, please.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
May I have you state and spell your name for the record?
Judy Ryerson, Judyryerson.
Thank you.
We have a stipulation to Plaintiff Exhibit 734 for the new plaintiffs being approached.
Yes, you may.
Yes.
No, I believe you.
Shall be admitted.
It's nice to see faces. I've been looking at suits all.
How are you doing this afternoon?
Fine, thanks.
All right, and this is your first time testifying in court?
Yes,
correct?
it is.
All right, and just to be clear, you're Kathy Ryerson's sister, correct?
Yes.
All right. Will you introduce yourself to the jury? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm Judy Ryerson. I'm the youngest of the 4 Ryerson siblings. I teach here at UNLV. I'm an associate professor in the theater department, costume designer by trade, and I'm going to teach you my whole life.
All right, and you went to college for costume design?
Yes. My bachelor's degree, my BFA is from West Virginia University. My master's is from the University of Utah.
Okay. And are you married?
No, never been married.
And any kids?
Nope.
All right. And Shane, can you pull up picture 51 and transfer it to me? All right. So I think you said you were the youngest, but can you remind me of the birth order here?
Kathy in the blue is the oldest. Then Pat in the middle of the top row is the second. Then Rick to her right is the third, and I'm on the bottom left, I'm the fourth.
All right, so that makes Kathy the oldest near her baby sister. And remind me, how many years apart were you guys?
About 2.
And just tell me a little bit about Kathy.
She was a prankster. She was a jokester. She was very caring, very loving. I was pretty sick growing up with asthma. She always showed up at the hospitals to see how I was doing. And in fact, in 2007, I got a very bad case of pneumonia here in Las Vegas. I moved here in 2005. And she came over from Arizona just to make sure I was okay and to see how I was doing. Kathy and I did a lot of things together. I moved across the country. When she went east to go to Yale, I went east to go to West Virginia. When I came west to go to the University of Utah, she came west to go to Arizona or to move to Phoenix. She had been in Fort Defiance, but she moved to Phoenix to start her midwifery practice. And we had very similar interests. We like beading, we like quilting, we like sewing. We were both really interested in the indigenous spiritual world, indigenous potteries, weaving. We both collected them, that kind of thing.
And so even when it sounds like when you were apart, you guys were still pretty close?
Oh, absolutely. At least once a week. And I often, since she was in the medical field, I often called her about medical things. What's your opinion about this? Or what do you think of that? Because she was incredibly health conscious.
And I know we heard a little bit from your sister on Tuesday, but at some point, Kathy decided to retire and move to Las Vegas, be closer to you, your mom, and Pat. Where did you guys all live?
Well, we started out living in my sister's home, Pat's home, and when she first got here. And so I decided to get an apartment, and so I said, okay, come on, Kathy, we're gonna get an apartment together. And of course, there were the old jokes, oh gosh, now I've gotta live with her. You know, I've lived with her my whole life. But it was great. It was a really good fit. We moved in together in an apartment, and then I bought another house, and she just came along, and it was just a really, really good fit.
So after 2015, you guys lived together until her passing?
Yes.
And when you guys were living together, would you and Kathy share some expenses?
Yes. She was on a fixed income, so she paid me what she could, either, some of the utilities or something. I paid the mortgage and she pitched in on everything else.
And when you guys lived together, do you two her communications with your brother, Rick? How often that happened, or?
She called two people once a week. Her friend Pamela, who lived in North Dakota, and Rick, just to check up, see how he was doing, and see what was going on.
And kind of bringing it to where we are today, what was the first time you noticed Kathy drinking real water?
I was in northern Utah designing costumes at an opera company up there, and I came home. It was late July of 19, and I came home and there were these big jugs, 5-gallon jugs of water there. And I said, "Oh, Kathy, you're drinking this water now?" She was always health conscious, always trying to find, do the best by her, stay hydrated, get plenty of sleep, all those kinds of things. And so that's when I first noticed it, because it was right there on the kitchen counter. She was having home delivery.
And in addition to the home delivery, did she only drink the 5-gallon bottles?
No, she evidently would like to take drives on Sundays, go out to the national parks, go around Lake Mead, and listen to her reggae music. She really loved reggae music. And she would often stop, evidently, and buy a bottle at a convenience store for the road.
And do you recall about how much real water Kathy was drinking on a regular basis?
She was drinking between 64 and 100 ounces a day.
Taking us to August of 2020, recalling back to that time period, did you notice anything different about Kathy?
She was becoming more and more fatigued. I noticed that we have a very easy access pool at our house, and she really wasn't getting in the pool as much, even though they were very easy, reasonable steps. It was getting harder and harder for her to get out of chairs. And so I'd have to do one of these things, say, okay, lift her out, and she'd be able to get out of the chair. But she was really slowing down physically. That's the big thing I noticed.
And in August of 2020, what prompted you and then Kathy going to the hospital?
Well, it was actually September, if I may correct. I don't mind. Kathy and I had the same GP, and she called us at 7:30 on a Friday night. It was around September 20, I'm not quite sure, and she said, "Kathy, your regular blood work came back with really elevated liver numbers." And she and I didn't know what those were, and she wanted us to go to the hospital right away. Well, Kathy was really stubborn. She said, "Okay, we'll go over in the morning." So Kathy and I went over to St. Rose Dominican, Sienna Hospital the next morning, on Saturday morning, and she was admitted for 4 days. Back then, St. Rose Sienna was totally locked down for COVID, so none of us could be with her. So I just on the phone, "How are you?" "I'm fine," et cetera, et cetera. And she was there for 4 days and then came home.
And Shane, can we pull up Exhibit 734, page 151? I'm sorry, 152 first. I apologize. We can go back to 151 if we need to.
Are you talking about Exhibit 151?
No, sorry, Exhibit 734, page 152. All right. So here's this exhibit, and this is, do you see where it says diagnosis this visit? So this is, as you said, September 21st.
Yes.
And at the very top, it says she was diagnosed with hepatitis acute. You see where it says that there?
Yes.
Okay. So you said she was in the hospital for 4 days, correct?
Something like that, yeah. It wasn't a long time at all.
All right. And how long, so how much time was there between the first hospitalization and the second hospitalization that Kathy had?
Well, what about
How long was in
10
between?
days or something?
Okay. I'm not trying to quiz you. I know it's I have documents here, so we're no problem.
Did she go in on the 20th of December, or October?
Yes,
Then that would have been about a month.
about a month. Okay,
Yes.
perfect. And did you see Kathy drinking real water in between that first and second hospitalization?
Yes.
Okay, and again, did you notice anything different with Kathy in that time in between those two hospitalizations?
Just a continuing decline of her physical oomph, her physical abilities. She was, frankly, seemed a little more distracted, not quite able to focus. I noticed that because I'd ask her a question and she was like, I'd have to ask it a couple times for her to try and engage with me. We planned a garage sale in that time. What a time to have a garage sale, right? And she, at first she was like, oh, I'll help, and then she couldn't at all. She was inside the house, sitting on the couch. She just couldn't physically participate. She was participating less and less in things.
And in the days before Kathy's second hospitalization, kind of what happened that,
That precipitated,
yes,
thank you. One day it was fairly early in the morning. She'd gotten up, but she was using a walker by then, full time, and it just slipped out from under her and she fell on the floor. And I was home, I heard it, and so I said, hey, what's going on? And she said, well, I've fallen on the floor. I said, Kathy, I have to call the paramedics because I can't get you up. I don't have the strength to, or should I, because I don't want to hurt you further if you're injured. So we called the paramedics, they helped her up. She was able to walk into her office and sat down there. They triaged her, checked her vitals and all that, and she seemed to be fine. And so they said, okay, well, because all of her vitals at that point seemed to be fine. She was breathing fine, etc. She hadn't injured herself physically. And then I went to work the next day, and Kathy is not an early riser. So I was off to the university way before she got up. And I got home about 4:30 that night. This was on a Wednesday, I think. And she was still in bed. I said, Kathy, have you been in bed all day? And she said, yeah, I've been in bed all day. She said, what's the deal? I just don't feel like I can get up. And I just don't have the energy to get up. So, okay, well, I made her a light dinner. I made her some soup. I did all the cooking in the house. I made her some soup, and she did that. She probably drank some more water at the time. And then she slept. And then the next morning she said, Judy, I can't get out of bed. She couldn't get herself up out of the bed to stand at the walker. So I said, okay, Kathy, we've got to call the hospital. We have to take you into the hospital. So that was what precipitated her needing to go into the hospital, so that she was just incapable of moving or doing anything.
and so did you make the decision to call an ambulance?
Yeah.
Okay, and then what hospital was she taken to?
St. Rosiana.
Okay, and what happened then, next?
Well, I wasn't there at the first stretch because Pat met the ambulance, and so she was there for the first 3 or 4 hours in the ER, and then she left and I came in. And by the time I got there, it was really surprising. Her head was shaking. She was sometimes responsive, sometimes knew who I was, sometimes knew her name. but then her eyes seemed to roll back, then she seemed to be just staring. And then they noticed that her right arm wasn't moving. And so they did a stroke protocol, which they immediately ventilated her and started doing all of those things, taking her to MRIs and this and that. And that was quite disconcerting, to say the least, to suddenly see this beehive of activity around her when she wasn't really responding to much at all.
And Shane, if we, Plaintiffs Exhibit 734, page 1659. And if we look at the top there, her ALT levels and her AST levels, they're over there in red. So it looks like her ALT levels were 102 and her AST levels were 1,289 at the time of her hospitalization. Does that look right?
Yeah.
And Shane, can you pull up Exhibit 51-4? Was this picture taken of her while she was in the hospital?
I'm sorry, is that exhibit 51,
Plaintiff
page
exhibit
4?
Or page
Page
1? 51-4. Thank you, of course.
Yes, this is when she was in cardiac ICU. They had to start doing kidney dialysis. And they had to start taking fluid off her belly because her liver wasn't absorbing and handling her bodily fluids right. I don't know what you call it, but she was very bloated. She was very sedated here as well. So I can't really speak to her awareness, but she seemed to be aware when we played music, when certain people were talking to her. We talked to her all the time, held her hand. But she was chemically comatose right here.
And I know this was in the time of COVID, as you mentioned previously. Were you and your sister able to visit with her?
Yeah, we were. It was just in between times before St. Rose Sienna was open for visitors, and then St. Rose closed mid-November to visitors altogether because of COVID again. So it was my sister, my nephew Simon, Kathy's college friend Tish, and a very good friend from Arizona who she worked with at Fort Defiance, who came out from Maryland to be with us, who was also a nurse. So we all sort of took turns.
And you said took turns. Was that because you guys couldn't?
I could only be one person at a time.
And what are some of the things you did with Kathy while she was in the hospital?
Well, we tried talking to her. We played music. I read she and I, really interested in spirituality. I read some spiritual Navajo poems about grace, about living. I feng shuied her room and I hung a burden basket and a Navajo prayer. Well, they were hanging right above her head. This must have been taken before I did that. Things to bring some spiritual harmony to the room, hoping that she would know that.
And how long was Kathy in the hospital before her passing?
I guess she was, 10:20 to 11:11. That's how long she was in the hospital. She was in cardiac ICU for a week to 10 days, something like that, or maybe a little more than that. 3 weeks. I'm getting the high sign of 3 weeks from my sister. And then she was moved out into the hospice care area of the hospital.
Okay, and Shane, can I get Plaintiff's Exhibit 734-558? And this shows the date of 11/10. Was this the date that she was transferred to hospice care?
Yes.
Okay, and if we look at her discharge diagnosis, it's a little lengthy there, but it says acute liver failure, then also hepatic encephalopathy, and a liver disease of unknown case. And it looks like there's a date there, that 9/20. Is that the date of her first hospitalization?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And so then after this date, you said Kathy was moved to hospice, correct? And was there some point that Kathy became a little bit more communicative, or was she still in and out?
No, she was off of the chemical-induced coma, I would call it. She was still really kind of out of it. They weaned her off much of the IVs and the chemical meds, and they were just trying to make her comfortable. There was at some point on that Tuesday, on the 10th, that it was late in the afternoon, and she would sometimes open her eyes, and so happened to be a moment where she opened her eyes, and I looked right at her. And I said, "Kathy, can you hear me?" And she said, "Yes." She didn't say it. She nodded her head. She couldn't speak, even though she wasn't on the ventilator anymore. I don't know from what reason, but she couldn't speak anymore. But she made it known that she understood what I was saying. And I said, "Kathy, your liver's failing. You're having brain seizures. Your kidneys are also failing. And you have severe pneumonia, probably from the ventilation. But you have pneumonia." And I said, "It's time for you to go home to Mom and Dad, because we don't know what to do to help you." And she sobbed these two big, huge sobs like you do when it's kind of a shock cry. Didn't cry, but I could tell she really reacted to this. And I could tell that she was on a heart monitor, and her adrenaline went up a little bit, and her heart started racing a little bit. And I said, "What do you want? What do you need?" And so I wrote some things down on a board, because I didn't know if she could understand. I was grasping myself. And I said, "Do you want this? Do you want this?" And I said, "Do you want medicine?" And she nodded her head, yes, yes. It was very clear that she wasn't ready to go, at least in my eyes. She wasn't ready to go, and she really wanted to help. But she was slowly moving backwards with her breathing. She was fine off the vent for a while, and then they just had her on room oxygen, but then they had her on variously more aggressive apparatus to help her breathe. And I said, "Kathy, you're about ready to go be sick enough again that you need to be on the ventilator again. I will see if we can help you out in some way. But I really think it's time for you to go, and we love you. And we'll send you on your way." And then I had to leave the room because I knew immediately that I wanted to start the hospice treatment immediately with Ativan to make her more comfortable, because I could tell that her breathing was getting worse and worse. Now, whether or not that was worse and worse because she was upset or worse and worse because she was deteriorating, I don't know, but I could really tell her breathing was starting to get, she was struggling.
And that was one of the last moments of
Yeah, I stayed till about 6 or 7 at night to make sure that she had gotten her first Ativan treatment. And she seemed a little more relaxed. But I was starting, I had a bad back at that time, and was in desperate need of back surgery, and I was putting it off because I was Kathy's caregiver. And I said, "Kathy, I'm sorry I can't stay. But just know I love you, and I'll see you later." And so I left about 6:30. And then Pat got the call at 3 in the morning.
And so that very next day she passed away. And Shane, can we get Plaintiffs Exhibit 49? So she died on November 11th.
That's one that hasn't been admitted.
Did we admit?
We have no objection to.
No objection.
Exhibit.
No objection.
All right. Shall we admit it?
Thank you. And so it's November 11th of 2020. And is that a special day for you guys?
Yes. Kathy meditated every day at 11:11 in the morning, and if she was up at 11:11 at night. And if you follow any kind of numerology or any kind of indigenous spirituality, prime numbers and their related forms are really important. Like 22 is an important number, 44 is an important number. But 11:11 is particularly auspicious. So we get the call at 3 in the morning. And our friend Sue Kay was with me at my house, at Kathy's in my house with me, and we were getting ready to go to the hospital, and she stops me and she says, Judy, do you realize it's 11:11? It's November 11th. And no one should ever have to die because of water or because of anything totally out of left field like this. But frankly, it was a solace to me that she picked her passage on that day, on November 11th. And I truly believe that.
And if we look down to the bottom at the causes of death, and so the causes of death we have are hepatic encephalopathy and liver failure, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And just one more question. What is the thing you miss most about Kathy?
Well, a couple of things. She was gregarious, she was a jokester, she loved giving parties, she loved going to dances, loved going to concerts. And I was really looking forward to retiring in 2 years and having her around so that the two of us could do things together. I was never married, I never had kids. I guess my children, my students have been my kids all these years. And neither was Kathy. And so I thought, oh great, because we like to travel. We would go to quilt shows, we'd do all these things, and I was really looking forward to doing those things with her. But on top of that, I am prone towards depression and anxiety, and so I've always had a roommate. I've always offered my house I've always offered a room in my house to the theater company if like we had a guest artist coming in or a guest intern coming in or something like that. I never really wanted to ever live alone. And so it was really comforting when we did move in together, regardless of the sisterly grumbling, that, oh great, Kathy's now here. She'll help me. And she's a lovely roommate. She cared. She was a lovely sister. She cared. So it's not much of a solace, but my friend Sue Kay said, Judy, this about 3 months after Kathy died, she said, you need a dog. So I went to the shelter a year ago and I got a little Maltese poodle mix, and she kind of helps to fill the void, but can't possibly fill the void that a loving, comforting, personable family member and friend can be in your life.
Cross-examination.
I was ready to bail, I'm sorry.
Not at all. You need a minute?
No, I'm fine.
Just let you catch your breath for a sec. It just doesn't seem fair when you start asking me questions.
It's okay.
First of all, I first apologize and apologize again. I'm sorry for your sister, for the loss of your sister and the real water concert. I'm very sorry for that. My understanding is her medical bills were about $700,000.
I think that's actually low.
Yeah.
Her hospital bills may have been $700,000, but as someone who was handling all of her monies and her bills, I thought it was close to $8.5.
I can show you the fact sheet.
But I'm sure you've got it right.
Okay.
I'm sure you've got it right. Yes.
And I'm not trying to minimize it.
No, I know you're not.
Whatever the number is, the number is.
It's a big number.
It's a very big number. We were given about 600 and something, but I rounded it up to $700,000. And as the person who administers our state, it sounds about right to you. You're nodding, I'm sorry. We had a
Yes,
verbal
yes,
answer.
I'm sorry.
Again, I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Ms. Ryerson, because of circumstances, we have never met before. My name is Scott Rasmussen. And I just want to tell you, exactly.
Thank you. And
Thank you, Ms. Ryerson, for your time, and we have no questions from Milwaukee.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
okay, thank you. Odou, he's not helping, man, don't go anywhere. Take your time. We'll do it all day. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Okay, Mr. Kemp, sir.
We have a 49-minute video and a 25-minute video. So I think maybe we can take 5. People want to take 5? People, okay. Is that a yes? All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're admonished not to converse amongst yourselves with anyone else on any subject connected with this trial, or to read, watch, or listen to any report of or commentary on the trial by any persons connected with this case, or by any medium of information, including without limitations, newspaper, television, radio. Remember the social media prohibition, and not to form or express any opinion on the ultimate outcome of this matter submitted to you for jury deliberation. So when they're done, we're ready.
Yes, Your Honor. All rise for the purpose of jury. Jury is clear. Please be seated. Thank you.
Recess until they're ready. Just waiting for you to clear.
There's 2 scheduling matters, Your Honor, just to bring to the court's attention.
Yes.
Juror number 4, badge number 52, Mr. Doctor's appointment tomorrow, so we were starting at 10:30.
But we'll be here at 9:30 on,
We have the one argument on the motion. Okay.
That's Milwaukee's motion?
Yeah.
Well, I think we have that, we have a motion exclude too, right?
It's pretty much the same motion.
All right, I got you.
And Your Honor, the second scheduling matter is, we are going to be calling Mr. Brent Jones. He is traveling for work and Lane Jones. I'm going to screw that up every time. He's traveling for work and can be here first thing on Tuesday morning, but cannot be here tomorrow if the plaintiffs finish early. We have a couple of video depositions to play, but right now it's looking like, I don't know, 20 to 40 minutes, just guessing the amount of time that we have to fill.
I think that might work out perfectly.
So Blaine Jones will be on Tuesday, so you won't rest before Tuesday, so we can get that in.
No, what I mean is when we actually for the week.
Yeah, and then Blaine
We're gonna work it out for you, mister.
Well, you called me the wrong name. There's all this cringe when I say it, and I'll know I did something wrong.
No, we're gonna make sure you get your case in G one.
Thank you.
We're gonna make sure. There's no question about it. I do appreciate the heads up.
Thank you.
and Your Honor, briefly before I forget, on Tuesday with Ms. Converse, I believe we moved into evidence all the customer complaints, except for Exhibit 106. We reserved that so it could be redacted. Real Water has redacted it. So we have the new 106, which is the redacted version. I think we stipulate to admit this as in place of the old 106.
We agreed, the same objections previously, the court's already ruled on those, so we agreed.
Yeah, any and all prior objections are reserved and on the record.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead and have it.
Just for the record, that was stipulated to being admitted with the understanding that it would be presented redacted in hard copy. So the admitted date is when it was admitted, and I'll just put that date on here.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
No, no.
Anything else? right, go get him.
Yes, Your Honor. All rise to the jury. Please be seated.
All right, do the parties stipulate to the presence of the jury?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, John.
We call Mr. Carl Savaggio by video. Like I said before, he's probably about 49 minutes long.
All right, sir.
Sir, can I have you raise your right hand, please, to be sworn? You solemnly swear to testify you're about in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes. Would you state your full name for the court reporter, please, and spell it?
Carl with a C, Silvaggio.
How do you spell Savaggio?
S is in Sam, I-L, V Victor, A, G George, I-O.
Your middle name?
Joseph,
When did you become vice president of operations for Hanna?
I guess in and around in 2018.
Okay. And so at the current date, are you the vice president of operations of Hanna Instruments, Inc.?
Yes.
Did Hanna have other vice presidents?
I don't know. Yeah, actually, I don't know what some of the titles are. There's a lot of new people.
Who's the president? Who's the president of Hanna Instruments, Inc.?
That is Mr. Martino Nara.
Are you familiar with a company known as Milwaukee Instruments?
Yes, sir.
Do you hold a position with Milwaukee Instruments?
I'm not an employee of Milwaukee Instruments.
Have you ever been?
I hold a position.
Have you ever been an employee of Milwaukee Instruments?
No, sir.
And when you say you hold a position, what position is that?
I am officer.
You're the president?
Yes. And secretary.
And how long have you been the president of Milwaukee Instruments?
Approximately 1998.
What would you describe the primary business of Hanna as being?
What do you mean?
What is the primary business of Hanna, your employer?
The primary market or the primary business? We're in the business of electroanalytical instrumentation.
Okay, so you make electroanalytical testing equipment, is that fair?
That's fair. But it's instrumentation, if you want to call it testing equipment.
Okay, but it's instruments that's used to test various things, correct?
That's correct.
Is it fair to say Hanna has lots of offices in lots of countries?
We have some offices in different countries.
Okay. And again, it says Hanna strives to be a worldwide leader in services and selection, unquote. Is that a true statement?
Speculation, I don't know. And I mean, sure, they would strive, anybody would strive, right? But I don't know that for sure. They are.
Okay. Let's flip over to page 10, which is, on page 10 it says, quote, for over 40 years, Hanna has been a world leader in innovation of analytical instrumentation. Unquote.
You get right there. That's not what they're showing.
Can you read the first sentence to it, please?
It looks like for over 40 years, Hanna has been a world leader in innovation, analytical instrumentation.
First of all, is it true that Hanna makes orb meters?
Yes, it's true, we make orb meters, but not Hanna Instruments, Inc.
And they're sold in the U.S. by Hanna Instruments, Inc. Okay?
That would be correct to say.
Well, first of all, what is an orb meter?
It's a meter and an electrode which measures something called oxidation reduction potential.
Were you involved in, well, first of all, Hanna makes a number of different orb meters, correct?
That's correct, sir.
I'm not suggesting there aren't others in the catalog, but there's at least 3 Hanna orb meters in the catalog. Is that correct?
The 3 that you've pointed out, there seems to be at least 3.
And I've gone through the whole catalog, and I don't see the MW500, the Milwaukee Instruments orb meter. Should that be in the catalog?
Okay. You will not find that in the catalog, sir.
Okay. So why, and that Milwaukee orb meter is a 4th orb meter that's sold by Hanna, correct?
No, it is not sold by Hanna, sir.
Okay. As I understood it, Hanna Instruments sold it directly to Milwaukee. You think that's not right?
That's correct. That's correct.
That is correct.
Hanna Instruments, Inc. sold the meter to Milwaukee Instruments, Inc.
Okay. Is Milwaukee Instruments the only customer that Hanna Instruments sells the MW500 to?
In the United States, Milwaukee Instruments, Inc. is the only purchaser of the MW500 from Hanna Instruments Incorporated.
Okay, so Hanna Inc. buys the MW500 from somebody, we'll get to that in a second, and sells it to Milwaukee Instruments here in the United States, correct?
That's correct.
And that's the instrument we've been talking about that Hanna makes and sells to Milwaukee, correct?
That instrument is purchased by Milwaukee from Hanna Instruments, Inc. Hanna Instruments, Inc. buys that from the overseas company and is manufactured, I believe, by a company called DP Dosing Pump in Romania.
Which is owned by Hanna somehow or another. Right?
Yes, yes.
So in the user manual, it says the MW500 is factory calibrated, right?
That's right.
Does that mean it's factory calibrated for both negative or positive orb readings?
That means it's calibrated to the range of the meter. The range of the meter is stipulated in the specifications of plus or minus 1,000 millivolt.
Okay. So the way you understand this, you could use this out of the box to measure plus or minus 1,000 millivolts. Is that correct?
I haven't tried it to read 1,000 or negative 1,000, but that's my interpretation, and yes.
Okay. Okay, in other words, you don't have to do anything, you, the user, don't have to do anything to make sure it reads positive orb. It does that out of the box.
It should be able to read positive and negative.
Out of the box.
Out of the box.
So the Milwaukee Instruments office in North Carolina sells MW500s. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And are we talking tens of thousands of them every year, hundreds of thousands, millions, what?
It's in the top 10 sellers. The actual number, I don't recall the actual number.
What is the reason that Hanna is having this other company that's owned by the same entity that owns Hanna sell the items as opposed to Hanna just selling them itself?
I don't know.
So these port meters are being sold somewhere between $73 and $102 to this particular customer, right?
That's correct.
And you recognize these documents as Milwaukee invoices, correct?
Correct.
I'm assuming you have no personal involvement in any sales to Real Water?
That's correct.
Never talked to anyone in Real Water?
Never.
All right. And if I told you that these invoices total 94 different ORT meters, do you have any personal knowledge one way or the other whether that's correct or not?
I wouldn't. I'd have to take your word for it.
Okay. So we were talking about pricing. So this Milwaukee 500 is in the $73 to $100 range, correct? Correct?
That's correct.
And would I be correct that the HI 6221, HI 9120, and HI 991003 are significantly higher in terms of price, more specifically hundreds of dollars higher?
I don't know the list price on those units, and I don't know what they sell them for.
Okay? As the president of Milwaukee Instruments, which would you expect to be the cheaper ORT meter? The MW500 or the 3 Hannas?
Cheaper? I think the quality is about the same. I think less cost.
I didn't say anything about quality. I said cost, cheaper.
Yeah, okay. Cost.
Okay? The Milwaukee's the cheaper?
It's less expensive based on a lot of different features that are offered in one set of units that may not be offered in another set of units.
Okay, so the Milwaukee, the MW500 is cheaper than the 3 Hanna ORT meters because different features, that's what you're saying?
Well, if I bought a Cadillac with all the bells and whistles, I'd probably pay more than a Cadillac without all the bells and whistles. So just different features cost more in the market for different things that you want or can buy. And the cost is relative to that.
So the Hanna 3 ORT meters would be the Cadillac of ORT meters?
They have more features, and if I had to take a look at them, they probably have more features than the Milwaukee's.
Okay, so they're the Cadillac. Milwaukee's not the Cadillac. Is that correct?
We have less features. We have a different brand name.
And Milwaukee's cheaper.
Milwaukee is less expensive. To the best of my knowledge. I don't know the price points.
And in general, are the 275 to 300 SKUs that Milwaukee sells generally less expensive than the comparable Hanna units, if any?
In general.
Okay. And there's a recommendation that in order to get negative, you have to put the probe in white distilled vinegar for a minimum of 4 to 5 days. Do you see that?
Yes.
Now, earlier in the deposition, you told me that an MW500 could take negative ORT readings right out of the box. Do you recall that?
I do recall.
So which is correct, that it could do negative readings right out the box, or that you have to put it in vinegar for 4 to 5 days?
Well, if you took a meter of an MW500, and you put a simulator on it, it will certainly read negative 500, negative 1,000, positive 1,000, positive 500, because it comes calibrated from the factory in that way.
So you don't have to use vinegar for 4 to 5 days to get negative work reading?
If you took a simulator, you placed it on the meter, you checked the meter's calibration, the meter is calibrated from the factory to read negative 1,000, positive 1,000, right out of the box.
Okay. So you do or you don't have to put it in vinegar for 4 to 5 days to take negative readings?
I wouldn't put a meter in vinegar for 4 or 5 days. It's not waterproof.
What about the probe?
The electrode can have a soaking in such a way to help it be more efficient when connected to a meter to read quicker, more effectively, a negative ORP reading. Doesn't mean that it cannot.
So this recommends that the probe be put in vinegar for a minimum of 4 to 5 days. Did I read that right?
That's correct.
And where does the recommendation of 4 to 5 days as opposed to 9 or 10 days or 1 or 2 days come from?
I don't know.
And I'm not asking if they could have been. I'm asking if you knew whether they did any testing.
Oh, no, I don't.
Do you know what the recommendation should be to oxidize the probe in vinegar? For how long?
Oxidizing the probe in vinegar, it seems for about 4 to 5 days, is the recommended procedure, step, to help have an effective, efficient reading for the customer. It's my belief, according to this.
So it's factory calibrated to read negative warp out of the box, but it's not factory calibrated to read negative warp out of the box. Is that correct?
That's not what I said. I said it's factory calibrated to read positive ORP out of the box. It's also factory calibrated to read negative ORP out of the box. I think we covered this already.
Okay, and if it's factory calibrated to read negative ORP, why are they advising people to soak it in vinegar for 4 to 5 days?
Because the meter out of the box can read negative 1,000, positive 1,000. An electrode sensor, which can more efficiently and/or effectively for the customer read quicker a negative ORP, this assists in doing so.
So it's your position that even if we don't use vinegar for 4 to 5 days, if you leave the probe in whatever solution it's measuring long enough, it's going to measure negative ORP correctly? Is that your position?
My position is that a meter can read negative ORP, positive ORP out of a box. A sensor connected to a meter can read negative ORP, positive ORP out of the box. It can help the customer more efficiently and effectively attain a reading in the negative ORP by soaking it in vinegar.
For a minimum of 4 to 5 days.
By soaking it in vinegar. 4 to 5 days does help.
Okay, so as the president of the company, Milwaukee Instruments, would you agree with Mr. Brown that the MW500 is suitable for testing Kangen water?
The meter's been used by people to test Kangen water. We don't exactly market this to anyone in specific. If people choose to use it for this. If they need to get a reading, either positive or negative, the meter should work positive or negative.
For Kangen or alkaline water, correct?
It should be able to work for any type of aqueous solution that has ORP type of parameter that could be measured.
Okay, let's flip over to 1884. This is our 9th reference to vinegar. Down in the middle, quote, if you are wanting negative ORP readings, you must let the probe sit in white distilled vinegar for 4 to 5 days minimum, unquote. Did you see that?
I do.
Did I read it right?
It appears, yes.
Okay, and that's the correct recommendation, 4 to 5 days minimum, correct?
I'm not saying it's the correct or incorrect. We haven't done any testing either way. It's the most consistent.
Okay, well, in the 9 references to vinegar I've shown you here, 8 of them say 4 to 5 days minimum, and 1 has for 48 hours. So, think it makes a difference? You don't know if it makes a difference or not.
I haven't seen the testing
There has been no testing that you're aware of, is there?
that I'm aware of, no.
Am I correct that customers reported to Milwaukee Instruments they were getting inconsistent readings when they were trying to take negative measurements of Kangen drinking water?
Where? On what? And what to what reference?
It says, quote, I get very inconsistent readings. See that?
Oh, on 1898 specifically.
Right. Right.
Okay. Okay. The customer did.
Go ahead.
Customer seems to have said that.
Okay, so this customer is saying he's getting, even after the vinegar treatment, he's getting negative 200, 3 seconds later he's getting negative 500, and 3 seconds later he's negative 150. Those are inconsistent readings, right?
Those are different readings.
Would you agree with me that this is a second customer that has reported to Milwaukee that he's getting inconsistent readings when trying to take negative ORP readings of Kangen water?
I would agree that it appears to be a customer having these kinds of problems.
Did Milwaukee, to your knowledge, do any sort of investigation as to why the MW500 was giving inconsistent readings, according to customers, when measuring negative ORP in Kangen water?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Did Milwaukee Instruments do any sort of investigation into why the MW500 was, according to these 3 customers, giving inconsistent readings when measuring negative ORP in Kangen water?
I don't think there's a need to make a investigation. So,
okay, sir, you said that you didn't think an investigation was warranted. Do you know whether an investigation was done?
if it wasn't warranted, we wouldn't have performed it.
You think maybe putting some information on a sticker that you put on the actual meter might be something that should be considered?
No.
Is it a fact that Milwaukee put stickers on hundreds of its analytical instruments? Isn't that a fact?
I can factually say yes. I don't know what you mean.
Was any consideration that you know of given to putting some sort of sticker on the MW500?
Did you ask, was there any consideration given?
Yes.
I don't know. The meter's manufactured in Romania at the DP dosing company, and I don't know if they considered that.
Okay. And in fact, the warning was drafted by someone in Romania, or excuse me, the user manual was drafted by someone in Romania, correct?
I would believe so. I did not draw it myself, nor did
So you as the president of Milwaukee Instruments don't know who drafted the user manual, correct?
That's correct.
All you know is it was drafted by someone in Romania, right?
That's correct.
You don't know when it was drafted, correct?
Correct.
Have there been any efforts made to update the user manual?
I would believe that if it's in the meter, it is the latest update because they are the manufacturer and packaging unit. We simply buy it.
Okay. To your knowledge, has anyone at Milwaukee Instruments advised whoever in Romania drafted the user manual of any of these customer inquiries about problems with taking negative ORP readings? They've been apprised of that specific issue.
I don't believe they've been deprived, but we've never, that I know of, made an inquiry about that.
Do you know whether or not anyone at Milwaukee Instruments has told the people that draft the warning that there have been inquiries from over a dozen customers about problems they are having in taking negative ORP readings of water?
I don't know of anyone at Milwaukee who has notified to make any adjustments to any manual.
Okay. Would I be correct that other ORP meter manufacturers do contain in their user manuals advice as to how to take alkaline or Kangen water measurements?
I don't know.
Okay. If you flip open page Exhibit 16, this is a picture of one of the competitor's products, which is called a Pinpoint ORP Redux Monitor by American Marine. Familiar with this product?
No.
And so in their user's guide, they specifically discuss that you have to clean, polish the probe in order to take negative ORP measurements. Do you see that?
Okay, I see it.
Okay. And there's no reason that Milwaukee Instruments couldn't have put that in their user's guide, that kind of information, right?
Well, there's no sticker on the meter either with the warning, right?
Well, we'll get to that.
But is there a reason that
You could have put this type of warning or information in your user guide, correct?
No. Okay.
You could have put this type of information in the user guide, right?
No, I can't. I don't print it. It's printed in Romania. It's
Okay,
produced
so-
in Romania at DP
So
Joseph Pump Line.
So you at Milwaukee Instruments have no control over what's put in your user's guide. Is that what you're telling me?
That's correct.
You just use what they give you, right?
And so,
So Milwaukee Instruments has made no effort whatsoever to draft a user's guide that will potentially alert customers to potential dangers with the product. Milwaukee Instruments hasn't done anything whatsoever to do that, correct?
We don't manufacture, nor print the manuals, nor manufacture the meter.
But Milwaukee Instruments just puts in the user guide that you get from Romania. You have no input into it, you don't review it, you just put it in there.
We don't put it in. It comes from the factory, from DP dosing from Romania. With,
Okay, so you just use what they use.
we use what is supplied.
You have no input into what's in the instruction manual user's guide. You have no input, you being
I have no
Milwaukee
input.
Instruments.
I have no input.
You ever tried to put anything in there?
There was no reason to try.
So the answer is
But
no, you haven't. You haven't tried. So you did not have any input to what the Romanian company put on the user manual. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. And you never tried to put anything in the user manual, right?
I had no reason to, right.
Okay. So now, in general, there's 4 ways, as I understand it, that Milwaukee Instruments is communicating or attempting to communicate with customers. Okay? 1, we got the user manual. 2, we have the package insert. 3, we have the oral questions or the typed questions and answers that we went through as Exhibit 14. And then 4, we have your website, which we haven't talked about. Are those the only 4 methods you communicate with customers that you know?
That I'm aware of.
So Milwaukee Instruments maintains a website, correct?
An e-commerce site, correct.
And we have downloaded a document from the website that I have in the book as Exhibit 10. Basically, you have to get on the website and click through, and then Exhibit 10 will pop up. So could you look at Exhibit 10, please?
Okay, we're there.
Okay. And I'll represent to you, this is currently on the website as we speak now. Okay, the third full paragraph says, quote, originally this oxidation process was accomplished by letting the probe sit in very acidic water, 2.5 pH or lower for 5 to 7 days. Did I read that first part right?
Yep, I see that.
Okay, and that's what we've already talked about, the 4 to 5, 3 to 4, 48 hours, whatever, in the vinegar, right?
Correct.
And then the statement is made here, quote, however, this proved to be an inconsistent method to oxidize a probe, unquote. Did I read that right?
You did.
And so you think when it says inconsistent readings, period, and says this problem, that it's not referring to inconsistent readings?
I think that in many cases, the probes do not get a consistent and complete coating of oxidation. Could be the problem. I don't know. I did not write this. I'm not the author.
If there's not a complete coating of oxidization, that could give you inconsistent negative orb reading, correct?
It could be possible.
And it says, quote, this problem has been corrected by the use of a conditioning and oxidation kit, Milwaukee Instruments model number MA9025, unquote. Did I read that right?
You did.
And did Milwaukee Instruments make a conditioning and oxidation kit that was known as MA9025?
We did not make the solutions of the kit MA9025.
And did Milwaukee Instruments sell a conditioning and oxygenation kit known as MA9025?
a kit was offered known as MA 9025.
You know what time period the oxidization kit was offered for sale?
I do not know exactly any time period that it was offered.
Okay, did there come a time that you stopped selling the oxidization kit, referred to Milwaukee Instruments?
That I know that it was stopped.
Okay, and you know what year it was stopped?
I do not.
You know why it was stopped?
I do not.
Okay, the answer says, quote, 13, line 25. The responding party, which is Milwaukee Instruments, stopped selling the MA 9025 conditioning and oxygenation kit as pictured in Exhibit 10 to the deposition of Casey Aiken dated April 22nd, 2021, in approximately June 2017, when the responding party could no longer obtain the solutions from Hanna Instruments, Inc., unquote. Did I read that right?
You did.
So Milwaukee Instruments stopped selling the oxygenation kit, which is MA 9025, on June 2017. Is that correct?
It could be in and about that day, but it seems, I don't know the exact date, as I stated.
Okay. Were you consulted when these interrogatory answers were prepared?
I was consulted.
Okay. Is there any reason to believe that June 2017 is the wrong date?
No, I don't know the exact date.
And the old website is the website that had the exhibit I'm referring to, which is Exhibit 10, correct?
Exhibit 10. I don't know if the old website had that and how long it was available up on the old website.
Okay. Let's assume it was on the old website. Would I be correct that the new website does not say anything about there being a problem with using acidic water or vinegar to clean or oxidize the platinum probes? The new website doesn't say anything about that, right?
I don't know. I have to read each and every section.
Can you explain to me the reason that the old website identified this problem, but the new website doesn't identify this problem?
Maybe, and I don't know why exactly. The kit is no longer available.
Okay. So you told people that, quote, this problem has been corrected by the use of the conditioning kit, MA 9025, and then you quit making the conditioning kit, correct? Or
No.
Hanna quit making it?
I would say a Romanian Hanna company quit supplying it.
Okay. So the item that was used to correct the problem was no longer available to you, referring to MA 9025, right?
The MA 9025 became no longer available.
Okay. Did you provide any substitute product that could correct the problem identified here on Exhibit 10?
Apparently, the vinegar is a method to effectively and efficiently allow the electrode to reach a negative or a P reading faster for the customer if they do this. So.
Okay. So you're saying that you don't think this reference to acidic water 2.5 pH or lower for 5 to 7 days includes vinegar?
I didn't write it, but it says water.
Well, it says acidic water.
Yes, water.
Now, according to your interrogatory answers, quote, "The design of the subject meter was primarily undertaken by individuals employed by Hanna Instruments SRL in Romania," unquote. Is that your understanding?
Some of the names over there can be challenging, so it could be Hanna Instruments SRL or some form of that name.
There was somebody in Romania who designed the meter, correct?
That's true, sir. That's true.
There was someone in Romania that drafted the user manual, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Now, assuming for the sake of argument that Real Water bought 94 of these ORP meters between 2017 and 2020, as the invoices attached as Exhibit 3 indicate, would that be considered a small, medium, or large customer for Milwaukee Instruments?
How many did you say?
94.
94 over a period of 3 years. That's about 33. That's it's not a big company purchase for us over the duration.
Well, this is a small customer.
Say customer. I don't define small, I haven't really put small, medium, large definitions to people in monetary brackets. They just purchase less than others and more than some.
Who is the biggest type of customer?
Do you mean in market? In a particular market? I don't understand your question.
Who is your biggest customer for an MW500 ORP meter?
I'm unclear the number of units that individual distribution networks or individuals directly have purchased per customer.
Okay, if you're unclear, how do you know that 94 over 3 years makes them a small customer?
I didn't say they were a small customer. I said they buy less than some, more than others potentially. I don't know if a customer buying MW500 94 units is a big customer. I don't classify them as big, small, based on the number of units.
Okay,
Of
so
an MW500.
94 units at about $100 a unit, and some of them were less, but we're talking $9,000 or $10,000 here. Seems like a pretty big customer to me. No?
That's to you. I mean, that's your opinion, I guess.
Do you have other customers that buy more than $10,000 worth of product? Refer to MW500s in a 3-year period?
Do I, okay, ask that again? Do I have,
Does Milwaukee Instruments have other customers that buy more than $10,000 worth of MW500s in a 3-year period?
I'd have to research that.
As we sit here today, do you know of any?
I don't know off the top of my recall.
Okay, so let's try to summarize here. You would agree that Milwaukee Instruments sold almost 100 MW500 ORP meters to Real Water. Agree with that?
Seems apparent over a 3-year period.
And you'll agree that an MW500 orb meter, out of the box, you can measure positive orb effectively, efficiently, that you can't measure negative orb effectively or efficiently without treating the platinum probe somehow. Agree with that?
If you're using the meter and the probe together, I agree with that.
Is there any reason that Milwaukee Instruments can't put the platinum probe in vinegar for 4 to 5 days before it ships the product?
Is there a reason? We don't know what the applications are. It doesn't smell pleasant, and it would be an extra step of labor that we'd have to consider. But there's not necessary, it's not standard in the industry.
But in theory, Milwaukee Instruments or even dosing pumps could pre-oxidize the platinum probes themselves instead of relying on the customer to do it, right?
In theory.
And the reason you don't want to do that, okay, and you've already agreed to me that the user manual doesn't say anything about putting the probe in vinegar to calibrate. The user manual, right?
That's correct.
So the customers were confused as to how to get accurate negative orb measurements. Is that fair to say?
I don't know if they were confused, maybe they didn't read the card.
Okay. Well, in any event, they had questions that they posed to Milwaukee over what they needed to do to get accurate negative orb readings, correct?
They had questions about negative ORP readings.
And the standard Milwaukee response was put it in vinegar for 4 to 5 or 3 to 4 days, right?
That's what it seemed.
And we looked at 3 or 4 customers who said even after they put it in vinegar, they got inconsistent readings, right?
They got inconsistent readings, but I don't know why. I don't know what the procedure was. I don't know what they did to the electrode. I don't know what the electrode was.
Okay. Given all these points, you know, the reference in Exhibit 10 to a problem, the information that's on the package insert but not on the user manual, the 4 to 5 days here, the 48 hours there. Given all this and the confusion with customers, would you agree with me that Milwaukee shares some responsibility, maybe a small percent, but some responsibility for what occurred in this case, the injury suffered by the plaintiffs?
No.
Mr. Akins testified, and I have it in here as Exhibit 6. Mr. Akins testified that their intended orb reading was one thing, and that the meter didn't measure it, so he put more concentrate in. And that's what allegedly caused the product to be toxic. Okay, that's what he testified to. That it was a problem with his orb meter readings. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So assuming that to be the case, would you agree with me that maybe Milwaukee shares just a small percentage of responsibility here for what occurred?
The answer is, I don't know what reading you got, and I don't believe we share any responsibility for his actions.
Okay, well, you knew other customers were having problems figuring out how to get negative orb readings, because we went through the 12 complaints. You knew that other customers were getting inconsistent readings with Kangen water, as we went through 3 or 4 of those. You think Milwaukee could have done more to correct this potential problem?
I think Real Water could have done more to correct their own processes and problems. And training.
You think Milwaukee could have done a little more?
No,
Nothing else Milwaukee could have done?
no.
Good afternoon, Mr. Savaggio. My name is Graham Miller, counsel for AffinityLifestyles.com Real Water. Just a couple follow-up questions for you. I think you said earlier that you never spoke with anyone at any point in time at Real Water. Is that right?
That's correct.
Any email conversations or communications with anybody at Real Water?
I did not.
You did not. No telephone conversations, no in-person meetings. Is that correct?
I did not.
And I think that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That's it. That's it.